God. Look, I just want to caveat this and say it's my choice. I can accept that this film is objectively good, but I fucking hate it. If we are saying that Phase 4 is the well of disappointment, this was the first bucket to extract its resources. It was one of two returning auteur filmmakers for the MCU that have a very distinctive stamp. This is, of course, not the excellence that is James Gunn, but this is Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok. Now, as I said, I fucking hate this film. The whole conceit of it, it was just the next Waititi film. This film could have been anything. The plot structure, the communication between characters, the duologue, the dialogue, the monologues, that could have just been carbon copy, take out the avatars of the Marvel characters, and then insert Waititi's next film. And you're saying, well, what's wrong with that? I'll tell you what's wrong with that, because it's fart jokes, it's dick jokes, it's silly behind the hand, look at the camera fucking jokes in a film that's supposed to be the end of the world. People say, well, yes, but he just mixes tragedy with levity. No, he doesn't. He tramples on the tragedy by making stupid jokes. Chris Hemsworth, I've said this 100 fucking times and I'll say it 100 fucking more. The guy is not funny. Do you know what he is? He's the good-looking guy that got away with murder at school. He could always be a prick, but because he was good-looking or he was good at football, everybody liked him. So all his silly little jokes were funny because everybody wanted to be his friend. He says things in a silly voice. Well, Loki, I don't think you really meant that, did you? Not funny. There is no capture and release of a setup of a joke and then a punchline. There is no rule of three. He just says silly things in a voice, and it is perplexing to me. Ghostbusters, the reboot of Ghostbusters, oh, he's just so funny in that. No, he does the same thing. He plays a dum-dum and says things in a silly voice. But this guy is probably funny to speak to. However, I can be quite funny. I'm quite funny in the podcast sometimes. Don't get me wrong, I've got on my phone, I've got notes for my potential first stand-up gig. However, I know that if I did that, I would die and it would hurt me so emotionally that I would never be able to leave my house again. Put him on a stage. No, I'll tell you what would happen if you put him on a stage. It's Chris fucking Hemsworth. Everybody would love him still. I hate good-looking people. And I used to be one of them. Again, getting back to the point of this that I really, really dislike. It is an all-power, omnipotent, omnipresent character that is coming to terms with his own mortality and the fact that he has to accept the death of all things so that he can embrace the rebirth. It completely pisses that story up the wall, not just because of the standard of writing, but this whole thing became a by proxy for Planet Hulk. Go on to YouTube now. Any video breakdown of this only talks about Planet Hulk. There are clear through lines from the comic series Thor Disassembled that are in this. The way he loses an eye, the way that he has to accept Ragnarok. And by the way, I know I've said this on the podcast before and Tim's going to be sick of hearing it. This is how poignant the comic book series is. Thor is out of ideas on how to save Ragnarok. He goes to the World Tree. He is on his knees before the World Tree. Please tell me how to save my people. He realized that his father, Odin, had stopped to Ragnarok previously. He lost his eye. He sacrificed his eye through battle. So Thor pulls out one of his own eyes and gives it to the World Tree in sacrifice. He then kneels as nothing changes. Asgard is falling around him. He looks at the World Tree and says, how foolish am I? I am only matching my father's sacrifice, and it is just an empty gesture. I have to go further than my father. So he pulls out his other eye and gives it to the World Tree. He then kneels in front of it in absolute despair, realizing that he is now but a fool and blind and can't save his people. There are so many pertinent, tragic, heartfelt moments in this where you see, how do you bring Thor, a character that is so powerful, down to his roots and actually threaten him? You make him question everything that he is, everything that he's believed in. And he has to reconstruct his whole belief system to save Asgard. And not only does he save Asgard, he has to kill Asgard to then enable its rebirth. That is the power of this storyline. And look, judge a film on what it is and not what you expect it to be. I get that. That's why I can accept that this is a good film. What bothers me, the same way Love and Thunder pissed away the God Butcher, pissed away Jane Thor, we will never get Thor Disassembled adapted now. Ever. We'll never get that. It's off the table. And that was a quality story arc. And again, if you consider the death of Odin in this film, it had no emotional weight. Look at the way Frida died. I was in disbelief in Dark World, a film that people slate, people pile on like it's unanimously the worst. I actually think it's one of the better MCU films. But the weight of the death of Frida in that is one of the most powerful deaths, the most affecting deaths in what's supposed to be a poor film. In this fantastic film, Odin dies, nothing. I didn't care. He just drifted off into fucking space. And like, mark my words now, anyone, and I'm sorry, Tim, because this is going to include you, anyone that gave Ragnarok a free pass got the film they deserved in Thor Love and Thunder. Because I said after Ragnarok, and I was hearing about this is going to be even sillier. Hang on a minute, we're talking about somebody with what, like stage 4 cancer, and you're making it sillier. Tell me, YTT, how are you going to make that fucking work? I just can't. A flagrant disrespect of the characters and what the studio, because to me, Dark World could have been a misstep in a War of the Realms trilogy. If they'd have been brave enough to carry on that epic feel, and it would be like Captain America, the first Avenger. In hindsight, people go, actually, that wasn't that bad. I fucking hate it. And thank you very much for listening to the end. Again, people, if you've made it this far, why aren't you following us? Why aren't you subscribing? Please do go and find us. If you're on YouTube, you can get the whole episodes on all your favorite listening locations, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify or SoundCloud or whatever app that you're using. We also have the Instagram and the Twitter, which is the _pod. Now, with that all over and done with, I'm Matt, and that only leaves me one more thing to say. We have been, and this is the end.
Nice.
I like that episode. That was a good episode.
That was good. That was fun.